collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
Coming up this week, we meet prize-winning author, speaker and business advisor Tania Ellis.
Inviting your customers to become a part of the journey that many companies have embarked, because companies are realizing that if they have these ambitious sustainability goals, then they have to invite their customers in, because they are the consumers of many of their products and services.
And there's a cultural slant to this week's digest with Australian Aboriginal group Djuki Mala.
People know the continent Australia, but they don't know the people, the original people of Australia. And our message is to share that we're the original people of Australia. We're Aboriginal, Indigenous Aboriginal of Australia.
And the Fengaros Festival, which kicks off tonight in the village of Katodris, with British soul diva Joss Stone headlining on Saturday.
It's a big name headlining the festival. This proves that we can do big things in Cyprus, in culture, in music.
Tania Ellis is an award-winning author, special advisor and managing director of the social business company in Denmark. She's been in Cyprus speaking at a conference on corporate social responsibility. Her topic was building an authentic brand from corporate communications to customer engagement. And that's something that to many people who are not involved in business, Tania, probably sounds a bit like corporate geek speak. So can you unravel it for mere mortals like me?
I'll try. What I talked about today was how companies that want to do good and do well by running a business in a responsible and sustainable way, how can they actually engage their customers in these efforts? And there are many ways that companies can do this. And surveys show that customers indeed want to be engaged in these efforts. They want to hear about them, but they actually also want to be engaged. So the topic today was really to look into the many different cases that are already out there of companies from around the world who are working with corporate responsibility and sustainability in a wide variety of ways, and how they are engaging their customers in different ways.
And it's interesting the way this relationship between businesses and their customers has changed over the last several years, because it was very much before, I think, a question of we offer value for money, come and shop here. But that's changed now, and it's interesting that you talk about the engagement. It's not just telling customers that, oh, we do this, so you should buy from us. It's also saying, would you like to help?
Exactly.
What is the psychology behind that? That customers, if they feel they are helping, they don't need a loyalty card. That's it, isn't it?
Well, it is very much. If you look at it from a business perspective, why should you engage your customers? If you look at it through the business lens, this is a huge opportunity to indeed increase loyalty, but in a much more profound way than we used to. And we still see, by offering loyalty cards, if you buy even more here, we'll reward you. Today, it's much more about, inviting your customers to become a part of the journey that many companies have embarked, because companies are realizing that if they have these ambitious sustainability goals, then they have to invite their customers in, because they are the consumers of many of their products and services.
And it won't work without them.
So it won't work without them. I had this example today of Unilever, who have some really ambitious sustainability goals, and one of them is a green goal to reduce their CO2 impact. And when they look at their value chain, look at, how much do we emit when we produce, when we source our materials for, say, a cup of tea, and how big is this green impact when the consumers actually use our products, they can see that the impact is immense. in the consumer end. So 68% of Unilever's CO2 emission actually lies in the actual consumption of the tea bag.
So how are they going to reduce that? How can they engage their customers to try and bring that down?
Well, there are many different ways that companies can do this, and one of them is obviously to educate them in terms of giving them the information and the knowledge of what is the impact when you drink a cup of tea, and how you discard the tea bag. So one thing is knowledge and information, but another way is also to incentivize, to really reward the customer to behave in a more and consume in a more sustainable way. Today I had this example from the US. It's also in the UK now, called Recycle Bank. This is a company with a business model that builds around this whole way of thinking. So the company Recycle Bank rewards private households when they recycle. So every time they recycle their waste, household waste, they gain points. Now these points are put into a Visa card, and this Visa card can be used in the local supermarket.
But how does Recycle Bank make money?
Well, they are sponsored. So that's their business model. So they don't make money out of this actual interaction with the consumer, but get their funding elsewhere. So it makes this interaction very pure and clean in a way, because they are sharing a common mission. A lot of consumers are concerned about what's happening to the planet and how this is impacting also social agendas. So, this is a great way of really inviting your customers on board this journey, and recognizing that we're in this together. So we can either sink or we can try to make this boat float. And the best way that we can do this is to do this together.
All right, one of the things everybody's been talking about is the sustainability. Mm-hmm. But if we go back to your example of the Recycle Bank, if the sponsor pulls out, that's not sustainable.
No, that's true. That's true. And they're refining their business model all the time. And we can see that a lot of the, new business models that are emerging right now, they are built around a whole new logic of, where does the money come from? So this is just one example of a disruptive business model, and we'll see many more.
And of course, the other thing is that in terms of engaging customers and getting them on board on your side to do best practice, I presume you have to keep coming up with new ideas because they've all been used before. So how hard is that?
Well, again, this is where you have a huge opportunity as a company, because, why try to come up with the new idea yourself? Maybe your customer has the great idea. So those were also some of the cases that I displayed today in my presentation. Examples of companies like, for example, Carlsberg in Denmark, how they are crowdsourcing ideas from their consumers. So they're saying, look, we want to, run our business in a greener way. How can we green our beer, in terms of how we manufacture our beer, in terms of how we package our beer, and in terms of how we drink it? So they go out, create a competition, invite consumers and the outside world as a whole to bid in with their ideas.
It's all very exciting, and you've been in the business for a while, but if you look, let's say, 10 or 15 years down the road, it's now very hard to predict, isn't it, where we will be, because everything is changing so fast. How do you look down the road? You're in the business of analysing, but I presume that by analysing, you also need to try and forecast, and
Absolutely.
the forecasting is increasingly difficult.
Well, I think what we're going to see is that some of the established players, mainstream commercial companies, they are going to, if not disrupt their business model, they're going to adjust it. We're seeing this already now. Large consumer brands like Procter & Gamble, they have outsourced their R&D, so they're crowdsourcing, product innovation. And, some of the best-selling products today are actually ideas that have come from the outside of the company. So one of the things that I foresee is that, the large commercial players, established players, they're going to really need to adjust and transform their way of running a business and making it much more open and transparent, and really to invite the outside world into the company. And then on the other hand, we're going to see many more new innovative business models, just like Recycle Bank, where entrepreneurs are developing completely new business models, innovative business models, where this whole way of thinking sustainable consumption is built into the very core of their business model. But the way that they make their money is done in a completely different way, at least when we compare to how we used to, build a business model in 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Now, Cyprus relies very heavily on SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises. How does this model fit in with those? Because sometimes it's rather hard if you're running, particularly in a country that's had a big recession and a huge financial crisis. This, we know, I think, long-term builds profits. But sometimes it's quite hard to get it off the ground, particularly for SMEs. So what's your advice to them?
Well, the same goes for Denmark, where I come from. I think it's about 70% of companies in Denmark that are actually SMEs. And I run an SME myself. And I think the way to really get started around this is to be really pragmatic and to look into, what are some of the current business challenges that we're having right now. It could be in terms of waste and, recycling, or, how do we maintain an innovative approach to the way that we're doing things, and how can we do that in a way that is sustainable too. And it doesn't cost much to invite the outside world into your company, particularly not in times like these where we have social media channels and digital technologies that makes it so easy to almost plug and play. So you can post it out there, and you can get going from one day to another. So actually getting started with some of these practical schemes I see are fairly doable. I think the tricky part is to initially to start thinking along these lines, thinking, well, how can we make money in a way that is not paid, the price isn't paid for by the environment or by human beings or society. How can we do this in a win-win way? I think that's where the tricky point is. But conferences like these, they are the starting point. This is where you get some inspiration, you get ideas, and you start thinking slowly. And networks with other companies who want to really embark on this journey is also a great way of getting started, and maybe you can join forces with some of them. And that doesn't cost much. So SMEs can definitely do this as well. And maybe they can do it much better than mainstream companies, because it's not such a huge transformation for them if they need to adjust their business model as, say, a large multinational brand like Unilever.
Well, we've been talking to Tania Ellis, and of course in Cyprus, where so many SMEs are family-run and the new generation is up and coming, it's probably the youngsters that are going to implement all these brand new ideas. Tania Ellis, one of the keynote speakers at a recent conference. She's an award-winning author. Check out her book, The New Pioneers, which was listed on Cambridge's top 40 sustainability books in 2010.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
The crowds are gathering outside the Lacha Theatre in the outskirts of Nicosia for what is a first in Cyprus, and that is culture from down under, but not what we might think of as Australian culture. We're talking about the real thing. Djuki Mala are going to be here to perform. Baker Lee is one of them, and Josh is also joining us. Baker Lee, tell us what the idea behind this is, because it's very much an Aboriginal-based show, isn't it?
Yeah, Djuki Mala is Aboriginal Yolngu tribe from the far northeast Annam land, 2 hours flight from Darwin, a small small island called Elko Island. And that's where basically the Djuki Mala mob is from, the dancers, the group, and that's where our base is, that's where it all started. It all began with a short video of this one video on YouTube that Big Frank, the person who came up with the company, and obviously put it up on YouTube, and then all of a sudden this million hits on YouTube, and yeah, here we are.
At the end of a European tour,
Yeah.
tell us how that's gone down, because it's probably something that most people in Europe haven't seen before.
Yeah, all the audience we had from like throughout this tour, we've been to the Europe, the Middle East, and yeah, this is our last performance in Cyprus. And throughout the whole performance, the whole tour, everyone was surprised what we had to give and share our culture, and we're really privileged, and yeah, just proud to be in this position.
Josh, can I come to you? You're not an Aboriginal Australian, you're what most people think of as Australians, I imagine, very unfairly, because it's only recently that I think the correct respect for Aboriginal culture has come to the fore. How did you get involved in this outfit?
Well, that's right. I mean, I'm kind of a bit of a mongrel in that I'm mixed. My background's mixed from English, Irish, Scottish,
So you are a
Spanish,
typical Australian in terms of the modern Australian.
and Tasmanian Aboriginal as well. So
Okay.
a mix of all across the place. But it's so good to be here. We've had such an amazing tour, going from Barcelona to Madrid to Innsbruck in Austria, then over to Beirut in Lebanon, and then down into Cairo and Tel Aviv in Israel, and then here. And it's been such an eye-opener. So many different elements and cultures and politics and in all these different places, and how, just seeing culturally how we're all interconnected as well as we travel across the land, and just the spirit of the people in all of these places has been really striking. And to finish it here in Cyprus is such an incredible privilege, and we're so excited to be here because it's the first time that we've been able to perform Zorb the Greek to a Greek-speaking country, and this was Big Frank's dream ever since it kind of took off with that viral YouTube clip, to be able to bring that dance back to Bungu Warta Mamala, or Manake Warta Mamala, which means the people that own that song.
Okay, can we quickly finish up with what the message is that you're trying to get across? We've heard the music in the background here. You're using a lot of modern music, but if you're going back to these Aboriginal cultural roots, what's the message to people who probably aren't aware of where you're coming from?
Well, basically, when people know the continent Australia, but they don't know the people, the original people of Australia, and our message is to share out that we're the original people of Australia. We're Aboriginal, Indigenous Aboriginal of Australia, and yeah, just sharing our culture and all that.
Exactly, and with a specific focus, I guess, with this show designed or aimed at challenging that Western perception or anthropological view of Indigenous culture, and taking it out of the museums and placing it within a contemporary global context. Because culture isn't stagnant. It's not. It's culture's a living, evolving, breathing thing, and ever shifting, ever changing. And as is Indigenous culture, and I think this show embodies. It's deeply rooted in tradition, but then combined and fuses all these contemporary influences from the diverse multiculturalism of Australia and through the influences of pop music, etc.
Last very quick question. What's with the umbrellas? Because it seems to me, as well as the culture, you're connecting with people in a sense through not necessarily comedy, but certainly amusing them.
The reason why the umbrellas are in the show is because we are dancing to a song called Singing in the Rain.
Gene Kelly.
Yeah, Gene Kelly. So, yeah.
But it's nothing like the Gene Kelly you'll associate with Singing in the Rain. We've been talking to Djuki Mala, and particularly to
Beckley
and
Josh.
Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks very much.
Djuki Mala were brought to Cyprus by the Australian High Commission here, and when he spoke before the performance began, the High Commissioner, Alan Sweetman, said they were great ambassadors for Australia and for the original Australian culture.
The 5 young performers make my job as High Commissioner very easy. You couldn't get 5 better ambassadors for contemporary Australia in 2016. The reason that they are such good ambassadors is they capture the essence of their traditional culture and as the first Australians and the Yolngu. And the first Australians have a continuous living culture older than 40,000 years. And the elements of that are profound and deep. Yet, these young men, like all young Australians, and particularly several of them are very accomplished actors and dancers and professionals in their own right. But they also bring to the performance the blending and the interpreting of modern, cultural, global music, dance, the things, as they say, that are important to all of them. And they capture across those two worlds, the ancient, traditional, and the modern, as representatives of a dynamic, vibrant, multicultural, multi-ethnic Australia, which includes, of course, the very first Australians. They are the ultimate ambassadors for us here in Cyprus.
The Australian High Commissioner Alan Sweetman, speaking before the Djuki Mala performance in La Cha last week. Incidentally, the performance got the audience to their feet with a long-standing ovation. They're now heading back down under.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
This weekend is probably one of the most hotly anticipated in the festival season in Cyprus. It is now the 6th year of the Fengaros Festival. Fengaros in Greek means moon. Well, everybody who's anybody heads up to the picturesque village of Katodris for the weekend's entertainment, which starts tonight and runs all the way through until Sunday late. Joining us is the communications officer of the Fengaros Festival, George Venizelos. George, 6 years and it's just got bigger and bigger, and I notice now there are 3 stages, which I'm pretty sure there weren't back when it first started out. So tell us a little bit about how it's all evolved, and you've now got an absolute mass of different acts headlined by Joss Stone. Now that's a big name to bring to Cyprus.
Yes, Fengaros started 6 years ago. As the older people, the organizers, say, in the first festival they had 600 people visiting. That was the first time it took place in Cyprus. Now 6 years later we're expecting around 3,000 to 4,000 people visiting the festival.
And the people of Katodris have really taken this to their hearts, haven't they? Because it's a small village and a fairly rural village in Cyprus, and yet it seems now that they too look forward to being invaded by thousands of young music lovers.
The people of Katodris are part of the festival themselves. In many cases, they help things to be done prior to the festival. They help us with all the means possible to realize this big festival, and I think we owe them a big thank you. I don't think they're invaded in the wrong way, but yeah, lots of people are visiting the village for the festival.
But they provide accommodation for some of the festival goers. There's camping as well, isn't there? Tell us about the sort of logistics of it. If I have never been up to the Fengaros Festival and I think, okay, I want to go this year, first of all, where am I going to get my tickets? And then if I go up with a little tent or something, can I stay the whole weekend?
So if you would like to visit Katodris for the festival, there is plenty of space for camping. Alternatively, people who prefer a normal type of accommodation can try and look for places in Katodris and the surrounding villages.
We're talking now some of the agro-tourism houses that are available up in the mountainous areas of Cyprus. Very pretty, picturesque village houses.
Exactly. And I think people who intend to do it this way should try far in advance.
Yeah, it's probably a bit late now to do that since everything kicks off tonight. But a lot of people also, it's not very far from most of the main centres of Cyprus. So a lot of people, I guess, literally go up for the day, come back early hours of the next morning and go up the next evening again.
I guess this is true, but that's not really a characteristic of a festival, in my own opinion.
You're really looking at people like Glastonbury or something who go there and do the whole 3 days and just have a real chill-out time.
Yeah, I hope this is going to become a part of the Cypriot culture eventually, and I think this is one of the good things that Fengaros is bringing to Cyprus, the festival culture.
Is it all, though, very young people here? Because if you look at the people who go to Glastonbury, some of them are pensioners, for heaven's sakes. Is there, because you've got the 3 stages, a real mixture of music so that there is something to attract all ages?
Yeah, I think Fengaros appeals to lots of people, to all the age groups. You can see young kids and older people, pensioners, as you said. We receive many calls from people looking for information, and I can tell they belong to all sort of different age groups. And additionally, this year, in fact, we have received many phone calls from foreigners. So I think there are lots of tourists or non-Cypriots living in Cyprus who started knowing the festival. And
of course, as I said at the beginning, the headlining of Joss Stone, an internationally acclaimed artist, is going to presumably bring huge crowds up there, certainly for the Saturday night when she's performing, if not for the 3 days. So tell us a bit about why Joss Stone is coming here. I think it's part of a world tour she's doing.
Exactly, and Joss Stone is a big name indeed. And this proves that we can do many things in Cyprus. Cyprus is no longer a small island. It's a big name headlining the festival. This proves that we can do big things in Cyprus, in culture, in music. And I'm sure that this is not the last year that we can do things like that, but the first year.
So it's the first year you've got a big international name like Joss Stone, but I think what you're trying to say is that now that this has, in a sense, become a regular event, I'm sure lessons have been learned over the years, and now the acoustics, the stages, the lighting and everything else must be getting more and more refined, and when it's good, then you will be able to attract those big names. And what about the other acts that you've got coming? I mean, Joss Stone, okay, that's a Saturday night, but there are 3 days of music. That's an awful lot of different bands, and I presume a lot of different music.
We have around 30 bands playing during the weekend. We've got bands from Cyprus, from the UK, from Greece and Israel. So that is to say that Joss Stone is not the only big name. We have Electric Litany coming from the UK. We have Pavlos Pavlidis and the B-Movies coming from Greece. We have Larry Gas, another Greek act, who is the only Greek artist who belongs to the major American label DFA. But of course we have lots of Cypriot bands, and this is what Fengaros is about, combining all the different styles of music from different countries, and of course it is promoting the local music scene.
So where can people get their tickets? They've missed, I know, the pre-sale prices, but people listening to this who think, I've got to go to Kadodris tonight and stay there until Sunday night, where do they get their tickets?
They can get their tickets on the door in the village of Kadodris. Tickets on the door cost 23 euros for a single day and 40 euros for the whole festival.
And on Facebook you've got all the details. Tell us your Facebook page.
The Facebook page is Fengaros Festival, first in Greek and then with English Latin characters.
So if you put Fengaros Festival, it will come up.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And the same applies if you Google it as well. It's happening starting at 7:30 tonight, Friday the 29th, at Kadodris. That's the 2016 Fengaros Festival. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.